Good morning, America. It's time for another edition of Get Up and Get a Job. If you're unemployed, underemployed, or just unhappily employed, you can get up and get a job using the tips and strategies heard right here. We'll cover the topic of the day, go through the email bag, and hear from HR professionals, recruiters, and even hiring managers. In just 28 minutes, we'll inform, inspire, and hopefully help you get a job. So come on, America, get up and get a job. Today's a great day to make it happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Get Up and Get a Job talk show and podcast with William Craig III. I'm George Sanders, your special guest host for today, and I have the pleasure of speaking with the creator of Get Up and Get a Job talk show and podcast, Mr. William Craig III. Today's episode will continue our conversation on how to land the job you want, secure the promotion you've been waiting for and aiming for, and stay organized and professional throughout the entire process. This is an episode you don't want to miss. In just a moment, I'll sit down with Mr. William Craig III. But first, let's take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. I promise you, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Get Up and Get a Job talk show and podcast with William Craig III. I'm your stand-in host, George Sanders, and today's episode is another powerful one. We'll be talking with Mr. William Craig III about how to land your dream job, earn that promotion you've been striving for, and achieve it all on your terms with increased confidence, giving you the best opportunity for your career success. So without further ado, let's welcome my good friend, Mr. William Craig III, to the show. William Craig III, how are you today, sir?
Man, George, like I tell you, I'm always great when I'm in the room with you, sir.
Hey, listen, flattery will get you everywhere, my friend. Everywhere. Well, it is great to see you today.
Thank you, George.
Um,
Appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. And listen, we're going to get right into it. And, the feedback we've been getting has been great. You'd be surprised. We often talk statistics on these shows, but you'd be surprised at how many people are really hurting and in need of resources when it comes to, trying to get to the next level in their career or perhaps even finding a job, man. It seems like, that is getting tougher and tougher in today's economy. So I'm so happy to be able to be on with you today. So let's get straight to it. So
Okay.
we were talking about advice that you have for job seekers who are researching companies to ensure that their values and the work culture are in line with the company that they're seeking to get a job with.
Sure. And, the first thing, George, that I tell clients to do as they're doing their research, 'cause part of that is really understanding who the company is and what values they represent. There may be a company that you're interested in because they have a job posting for an opportunity that you feel you might want to take advantage of. But here we go. As you do that research, are you seeing that the people there look like you? That's number one. And that may not seem like a big deal, but trust me, it is. I had a client once who went to work for a company and uh, kind of stood out from everybody else, and everybody else made them feel uncomfortable, even though they were talented, even though it was a great opportunity. At the end of the day, they didn't fit in because everybody felt different around them because they looked different from everybody else. And I spoke about values as well. And sometimes it's hard to find this out unless you're doing what we call those informational interviews, the things that I coach my clients to do. But I had a client once who went to work for an organization where every Friday at a certain time, they would shut down everything, open up the bar, and start boozing it up. And
Wow.
that client felt very, very uncomfortable in that situation. So, again, sometimes these are things that are hard to find out before you go into an opportunity, but that's why it's so important to do the research, to find out from others what the culture is like. And then those questions that you ask, during your interview are so very important. And again, with my clients, I give them a list and we talk about the things that they should be finding out about. And then finally, one of the things from my own experience, George, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but I go into a company or an opportunity and I'm trying to bring some ideas. I'm trying to say, how can we do things differently? How can we improve? And unfortunately, I was in a situation once where, oh man, I love this job and it was just fantastic. And so it got the creative juices flowing. But guess what? My boss did not want to hear anything about a new idea. He did not want to hear anything about a different way to do things. And it reminds me of the Piggly Wiggly story. And I'm not, are you familiar with Piggly Wiggly story?
Yes.
Yeah. And so here we go. For those of you who may not be familiar, uh, the guy who invented Piggly Wiggly supermarket chain, if you will, he he would go into his boss and present ideas. And finally, the boss told him, look, if you bring me one more idea, that's it, you're fired. And so lo and behold, he brought one more idea. But before the boss could fire him, he said, you know what? You don't have to fire me. I quit. And he started his own grocery chain called Piggly Wiggly, which is still around to this day. So do they share your value for new ideas? If not, if they just want you to put your head down, do your work and keep your mouth closed, and you're one who is innovative and wants to share, that might not be the right place for you.
Well, those are great words. And I didn't know how Piggly Wiggly was started. There are actually a few in the city in which I live
How
still.
about
So
that?
a little bit of history lesson there. But I agree with you. We got to do the research. Um, but that also goes back to something, William. You're not just taking a job to be taking a job,
Right.
right? And I think you have to look at this thing as a career as opposed to I'm just going to get the first people that say yes to me,
Yeah.
right? And so keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, there are tools out there, right? You can research at your fingertips, right?
Yes.
You can Google the company that you want to work with. There are message boards and online platforms that allow where employees can actually say their grievances or what issues they have with so those are some of the things that you can look at, like when William was talking about the person that was on the job. I didn't realize that there was a noontime drinking session. Maybe those things you're cool with, but for a lot of people, it's kind of a little bit of a strange thing to be, shutting down the office and then drinking at, 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. So, finding the right place that's for you, a lot of it's on you. Do some research, make
Oh,
sure it's a right fit for you.
oh, definitely. And just let me add this, George, because there was another client that comes to mind. And this is something you would probably be able to find out more readily than the happy hour type situation. But there was another client who worked somewhere, and so Friday afternoons after work, they expected everybody to gather at one of the local watering holes to get together. And so again, this client did not feel comfortable because they weren't a drinker and they didn't want to be in that environment. They had other responsibilities as well. And so now here's the rub. Well, that person thinks they're better than us. That person thinks they're too good to go out with us. And it's not the case. It's just that's not my lifestyle. And so again, that's one of the things that you probably will be able to find out in those pre-employment questions. And one last thing, because you brought up a great point about utilizing technology to get information. One of the things that I do is I provide my clients with a list of prompts that they can use in artificial intelligence to help them, no matter whether they're still unsure about what they want to do when they grow up, or they're in a situation where they're looking to retire in the next few years. What direction should I go in? What's going on in the marketplace? So I provide them with the prompts that they need so that they can get the information utilizing technology that is existent today.
Wow, I love it. I love it. And Man, it seems like everybody wants to drink at work, man, or even after work. I don't know. I don't know. But one of the things I've been wanting to ask you, when
Mhm,
you look on some of these job platforms, and we're not going to name any names, but there are quite
mhm,
a few out there that most people go to when
mhm.
they're looking for a job. And so when we look at these descriptions of the job, man, it just seems like they're trying to, intimidate us, if you will,
Mm.
when they're talking all these fancy terms and things of that nature. How do we get over feeling like we don't meet the requirements for the job, and how can we assess whether or not we should still apply when we're reading all of this stuff about the job availability?
Sure. So first thing is, because you brought up job boards, let me just say this. I don't encourage my clients to actually post their resumes on or create accounts on job boards. Certainly you can use a job board to get information, use it as a source of finding opportunities. But from there, there is a specific regimen that we go through to help protect them because unfortunately, let's just be real about this. The job boards are not really in your favor. You may think that, and that's great marketing, but really they're about themselves. They're about getting eyeballs on their site, on their platform, so that they can sell advertising. So now they go to an advertiser and go, "Oh, we get 3 million eyeballs a day on our platform. You need to buy ads from us." Well, some of those jobs may be non-existent. Some of them may be stale, meaning that they expired, but they're still sitting there. In some cases, there are job boards that don't even post their own job opportunities. They're scraping. It's called scraping from other sites, and it's just going there. So that's the first thing you need to use that technology wisely. But when you do find an opportunity, and as you say, that may seem intimidating, there are two things to remember. First of all, women typically will not apply for a position unless they feel like they're like 90, 95% qualified for that opportunity where guys will typically apply for a job even if they feel like they're halfway
Mm,
qualified for the position. So that's a very important factor. You cannot let this seemingly and I hate to use it, and we've talked about this before, but imposter syndrome
mm,
creep into your brain, right? Here's the thing, you have to remember, number two, that there's a difference between preferred qualities and required qualities. I'm going to say that again, preferred qualities versus required qualities or skills. So if a job, and I'll go with the last one first, if a job says that it's required, then guess what? It's required.
right.
That's something you should, must have. If it's preferred, it's something that you could have, but if you don't have it, at least if you have a familiarity with it, guess what? You should go ahead and apply. And here's an example from my own life. I applied for a job where they said that, and this was actually a requirement that and this was way back in the day, one knew how to use Salesforce. Well, I had never even heard of Salesforce at that point. And what did I do? Well, I went to my best friend's cousin YouTube and I looked it up and found out from watching a few videos. Well, Salesforce is a huge CRM, a
All right.
customer relationship management platform. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Well, it just so happens that I had owned a CRM called Goldmine at the time. And so when I went in, I applied for the job. When I went into the interview, I didn't wait for them to bring it up. I brought up the fact that I know that you all have a requirement that candidates know and have used Salesforce. Unfortunately, I've never used it, just to be transparent, but I actually own a CRM tool called Goldmine, which is very similar to Salesforce. So I can guarantee you that my learning curve is going to be very short. And yes, I did get the job. So at the end of the day, if you can feel like you are 60% matched, George, then guess what? You need to go ahead and apply for that job and become familiar with anything that may be a preferred or even a required uh, software skill, what have you. Now, if it's brain surgery, I'd go with 100% on that one. But anything less than that that doesn't require, or might cause loss of life or limb, then 60% will probably be okay.
Noted. Well noted. Now we've got folks that are entering the job market or in the job market and looking to make a shift and maybe a little bit older, and I get it. Sometimes we're a little bit intimidated as we get a little bit older, thinking that the workforce is looking for young people. How can people over the age of 40, how can they showcase their experience in a job application? What are the best ways for them to do that?
Wow, great question. And I love working with older workers. Here's number one. You got to rely on the quantified information that you've got in your toolkit. What does that mean? Numbers, dollars, percentages. And yes, this can apply to anybody, but especially the older worker because you have years of experience. So when you talk about maybe you've trained colleagues. Well, how many colleagues have you trained? Maybe you've generated revenue. Well, how much revenue have you generated? Maybe you streamline processes. You went in, and I have this with a lot of my clients. Well, when I went in, they were doing it this way, and I showed them how to do it that way, and it helped to streamline the process. Well, wow, not only did you save time, but you saved them money too. Now, let's do the simple math and figure out about how much time or money, what percentage of time, how much money did you actually save the company by doing that? And when you sprinkle these things throughout your resume, it does a couple of things. Number one, the eye is naturally drawn to numbers, dollars, and percentages. Try it. Open a book where there are numbers, dollars, and percentages, and you will see your eye is immediately attracted to those facts. But number two, it shows your capacity. It shows the value of your experience because here's the other piece to it. You have to have accomplishment bullet points. Gone are the days where you stack all these bullet points in your resume that simply show all the duties and tasks that you've done. That's not what we're looking for anymore. Nor should you ever be talking about what you were responsible for. Oh my goodness, I almost have a conniption when I see that. You were responsible for getting the eggs from the hen house to the kitchen. Well, that's great. Well, how well did you do with that? Because truth be told, oh, you tripped over a log and dropped half of them, and so half of the family was starving that morning. So two things, numbers, dollars, percentages. We call that quantified information. And then number two, accomplishment bullet points are the way to go.
Now, when a person has a lot of things that they've done, okay,
Mm.
they've got a pretty extensive experience, and maybe they have some career breaks in there. You know, if you got this resume that might be 3 4 pages long, how do we put this all together, right? So that we're not, that we're showing our value and we're
Mhm.
not getting overwhelmed, and that we're presenting something that a person can read in a very concise manner. How can we do that?
Well, first of all, you're not going to have a 3, 4, 5 page resume unless you're applying for a government position. So, local,
Gotcha.
state, or federal, you'll have a much longer resume. In fact, with the federal government, which I was a recruiter for the federal government as well, they want your whole life story. I mean, the very first job you ever had is applicable in that case. However, here we go. it, on the main, we're talking about a 2 page resume. Now, it can go to 3 pages, but it depends on the situation. And again, every case is different, but in general, we're talking about a 2 page resume. So, what do I do? Once again, I help my clients help themselves by giving them a template, a resume template that they can go in and they can simply plug in their information in the template and use that as their resume. We'll then walk through it to make sure that those bullet points say what they need to say. We're using the white space that helps draw the eyes down the page along with the quantifiable documentation that we mentioned earlier. And then you mentioned gaps, and that's very important. So when we have a gap statement, which again, I have a resume template that includes that, what we do is we show the transferable skills and any accomplishments that we have experience during that gap period. So here's what I always tell people. So maybe you're in a gap period right now. What you need to be doing, your full-time job is looking for a job. That's number one. But your part-time job is boning up on those skills that you need for that specific job that you're looking for. So when you can show the transferable skills, and again, there's a way to use technology to help us out with that, then this is the thing that makes you more attractive to someone who is considering your resume for that position.
Got it. I do want to sneak this in. So,
Mhm.
you mentioned career breaks. What happens? How is a person looked at, when the person has multiple jobs over whatever period of time? I don't want to grab a number, but let's just say this person has six jobs, different companies over the span of, let's say, 10 years.
Mhm.
How can we maybe adjust that? Because I've always been under the notion, I've been told that, well, then the potential employer is going to look at you as an unstable individual. How do we combat that?
Right. Well, first of all, you're an old head. Let me just help you understand that. And so that's the mentality you're going to have. We were taught, I'll get in the boat with you. Uh, we were taught that you get the job and you stay there. Okay.
Yeah,
You
that's right.
planted by the rivers of water. Oh my goodness. I feel the spirit right now. Right. But here, and my mother had a saying. She said, a rolling stone gathers no moss. Right.
That's right.
And so that was old school teaching. Today, my friend, that's not the case anymore.
Okay.
I've got a daughter who is very successful and has been very successful in her career campaigns, even though she's had multiple positions over a short period of time. What does that look like? Like over the last 7 years. And yet she's able to go in, learn new things, and then parlay that into the next opportunity, showing the new skill set, how she's grown, and again, leading though with the value that she brings. And so younger people get this. They are programmed and wired a bit differently as well than we were. And so they understand that it's not about necessarily the longevity. Now, unless you're getting fired from every job,
Okay.
that's we get a whole I get a whole different one-on-one session with you dealing with that one. But if it is all about, climbing the ladder and using the stair step or the stepping stone, however you want to, or whatever metaphor you want to use there, at the end of the day, that's not such an issue today. So what we do is we show the value that we bring. We lead with that. And one simple statement can be, someone might say, well, why have you had so many jobs in X period of time? And for a lot of people, it's about contract work. And I know I lived that for a long time. And you can speak to the fact, well, most of my opportunities were contract work, and unfortunately, they did not last long, which is why I'm here today, Mr. Employer. I saw this opportunity as a perfect marriage between the two of us, because not only am I able to bring these top three skills, but at the same time, you're able to offer me the stability that I'm looking for. And given the opportunity here at the XYZ company, I just believe this is going to be a marriage made in heaven.
Wow. Wow. See, working with William, this is the kind of stuff you get. I mean, he's not going to tell you what to do, but he's going to tell you what to say. Also, that's
Right.
going to make you successful. And this, wow, that is an awesome, awesome nugget. So, if you've had some career breaks, don't fret. William's going to show you how to handle that. And if you've been on multiple jobs, don't be an old school guy like me, or old fogey stogie, and be trapped in the past. It's okay. You're going to get a job. All right. So now you mentioned something to me earlier. ATS filters. I was like, what is that? Is that a car part? Is that what is? What is that? So first of all, I got a question about that because I know what it is now. But let's tell our listening audience what ATS filters is.
Sure. So coming from the car sales background that you have, that's why this comes up in your brain, right? But the ATS, or the applicant tracking systems, are platforms that are used today. If you were to do a Google search, you'd probably find that there are about 60 that are, in the top. as far as proliferation in the marketplace today. And what they are tools that employers use. It's estimated that about 95 to maybe 98% of large employers use some sort of applicant tracking system to filter out candidates, or filter in candidates, they would say, to get to the candidates that they really want to talk to. About 50%, 60% of your mom and pop shops may use them as well. Now, some companies have actually gotten in trouble for using the ATS filters to weed out candidates. And there are a lot of companies that, as I say, use it to weed in candidates. And what do I mean by that? They set the tenor for what they're looking for, and they basically ascribe a score, which says, I want somebody who scores at least 75 to 85%, utilizing the information that they're programming into that ATS filter. And so you submit your resume, your application, and if you've got a 75 to 85% score, it's going to be passed on to a human. And this is why many people get that automatic, that instant rejection, because the ATS says up 60%,
Wow.
and you're gone. So how do you get past these? I know that's the question some folks are asking. So here we go. By utilizing the job description or vacancy announcement, information at the company website, using search engines, using other technology, so that you are making sure that you are using the relevant keywords and phrases that that ATS is looking for. And if you're not going by the job description, I've actually seen vacancy announcements that have a section that say core competencies, for example. So now they're giving you the keys to the kingdom. You need to make sure that these words and phrases are sprinkled throughout your resume, your cover letter, your application, whatever the case may be, so that you can score higher. Now, I got to tell you, though, that's not the only winning way to do this. Yes, you have to do that, but there are other things that you have to do as well. So it's like they say, you can't study to the test in school. You need to know the information, because the question might be phrased in such a way that it takes a little thinking to understand how they want you to apply what it is they're asking to your answer. And so it's the same with applying for a job. You need to have the understanding of what they're looking for, but then there's some other things that you need to do. And again, that's one of the areas that we cover in working with our clients, is that we show you all of the other pieces to the puzzle that need to show up in your job campaign.
Wow. Wow. Technology, they're using it everywhere,
Yeah.
even in the hiring practices. William, this has been another incredible show. We got to get these people to what? Do what? Get up
Get up
and
and get a
get a
job.
job. Listen, we're
Yeah.
going to be with you next week. We pray that the content that you received today has been a blessing. I know that it has. This brother is a wealth of knowledge. For those of you who want to work with him, how can they reach you, Brother William?
All righty. I believe that folks are just one application away, George. Just one application away. And so therefore I've got a website, oneapplicationaway.com. And by going there, you can find out a little bit more about how to be successful in your job campaign, and you'll find out how to work with me one-on-one, as well as me and my team, and be supported by a group of folks who are all in the same boat, paddling for the same shore. So oneapplicationaway.com.
Amen. All right. Well, you heard it here. We'll catch you next week. So until next time, we want you to get up and get a job, and we want you to take care of yourself also. So next time, take care. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye, everybody.